This is a test of the boundary part alert system. Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park Alert System with me, Matt Dean, and our Southern correspondent, Andy Halliwell. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Matthew.
You are fresh from the terraces, the old terraces. They look dilapidated on telly, but you can tell us all about it a bit later on at Aldersh. So, we really want to get stuck into this morning. So let's get the fan guests introduced and then let's crack on.
Okay, fan guests, when was your first game?
It was January 1994.
Oof.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Boundary Park, 3-0 loss to Liverpool.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I do as well. I remember, what was the fullback they got from West Ham?
Julian Dix.
He scored screamer, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, the first goal I'd seen like in the flesh at any football match was bloody Julian Dix.
I remember a song about Julian Dix, but I won't repeat it on it. It's not suitable for 2024 audiences.
Who was your first favourite player then, fan guest?
Oh, Gunnar Halle. It's quite exotic having a Norwegian international, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think on the very first day of the Premier League, there was something like, I can't remember the exact number, but about 11 foreign players, that was it, started the opening game of the Premier League.
Wow.
He was one of them. Think about that now.
Now there's 11 English players.
Exactly. What is your favourite Latics-related memory?
Same season we played Wolves on Boxing Day, and it was... And we won 4-1, and Andy Ritchie scored a hat-trick, and he was unplayable that day. And I must have been, 14, 15 at the time or something. And we went as a family to watch it. Like all the lads in the family went, and they never really bothered about Oldham. And then we played this game. It was amazing. And we stood in the Chaddy end. Well, we sat in the Chaddy end, and it was bounced like 12,000 people there on Boxing Day. And we caned them. And it was great.
Well, funnily enough, that question was on last week's Latics Mind. Yeah. So we'll see what comes up this week. And then tell us a little unknown fact about yourself.
Unknown fact. I'm a teacher. I try and hide that from most of my mates and the kids I work with, to be honest with you. I've been a teacher 20 odd years, but I do try and keep that quiet. It's just I'm just good at work and
what do you teach?
I'm a geography teacher, Matt. Elbow patches and tweeds.
Yeah. For the people listening, he doesn't have a beard.
I don't have a beard.
No. You don't look like a geography teacher.
Oh, thanks. I'll take
any
that.
consolation.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
I mean, you are at home and it's a Sunday. You're in your hoodie, you got ready for that. But you might go to work looking very much like a geography teacher. However, you've already said you tried to hide it, so I'm suspecting you don't go around dressed like a geography teacher.
Not on a Saturday in Aldersh, no. Okay,
who are you?
So my name's Dave and Dave Pollitt. I'm I live down south now, so I go to southern Latics games and occasionally brave it up north and go to Boundary Park. But yeah.
So you were there yesterday.
I was.
Did you two see each other yesterday while you were there?
We passed each other, but we didn't have a chance to chat. I think I was battling two children demanding the toilet at the time, so we didn't.
Yeah, I felt for you yesterday. It wasn't a very forgiving place, was it, to have kids? I usually take my lad. He's 8. I usually take my lad along to some games, but he was with his mum yesterday. But yeah, it wasn't a great place for the kids yesterday, was it?
No,
it wasn't a great place for anyone associated with Oldham Athletic yesterday, I don't think. Andy, I think yesterday was probably one of those days where it was good to have the kids with you in terms of you've got a bit of a distraction rather than having to watch the game in its entirety. I really want to get stuck into it. We've had one request from Dale on Twitter to try and keep the mood up, to try and be able to, it's Monday morning for listeners, let's not get down in the dumps again where we're still in the playoffs and all that. I like to think that on this podcast we have a healthy dose. Last week's episode was called Hope, Reality and Expectation. I like to think we have a healthy dose of all those things. So I'd like to encourage people that are listening now that we will cover all of those things. It's not going to be doom and gloom, but we have to talk about yesterday. We have to talk about yesterday's performance, first of all, and put it into contact with the rest of the season. But I think what we should do, and it's 5 minutes long, but I think we should set the scene by hearing Mickey yesterday, because his interview yesterday was as far as Latic's managers go, it was a it had a couple of curse words in it. It was a pretty raw one. He was obviously feeling it yesterday. So let's have a listen and see what he has to say.
It weren't good enough. I can sometimes stand here and try and maybe defend us, because that's what you're supposed to do. But today we didn't sting enough passes. There wasn't enough people wanting to go on the ball and play. There wasn't enough people wanting to take responsibility and go and compete. But we just didn't get going at any stage, and wanted to go and try and play these big punts up the pitch, hoping for the best rather than getting on it and trying. Go on the ball and play. 8 games to go. We gave away the first goal was crap. The first goal we gave away is rubbish. It's rubbish. The 3 centre backs in there, and the guy gets a free header. The cross comes in too easy. It's not good enough. But we've had this since we came in, Alan, and I'm trying to be fair and trying to be fair, really. But we've had this a lot. No consistency in what we want. We speak about all the time doing the right thing, and we give away a goal like that, and then we just don't. I mean, we had a couple of chances, but didn't do anywhere near enough. I seen the amount of support that came down to support us, and I say we because I'm part of that as well. We didn't represent that enough. The only thing that we can do now is what you always have to do, is that we'll take the deserved criticism that'll come our way, because we didn't represent a team that was fighting and that was fighting at the end of the table that we're at, or what we've achieved. We just didn't get going at any time. So yeah, I thoroughly disappointing afternoon. I think disappointing is an understatement, but I think that's the only word that I can use to describe our performance today.
Why do you think we were so far off the pace this afternoon?
Don't know, Alan. If I knew that, I would, you know what I mean? I'd go and flick the switch and change. It's a mentality thing. When you come into these games and you understand how important they are, the good player comes into these environments and takes part. He understands that at this time of the season, this is where he should be. These are the games that he should be taking part in, and he has no problem with that. He goes and gets involved, and he goes and fights, and whatever the game's asking him, he goes and does that. We today, I couldn't count many or any that represented that type of footballer today. Which, like you're asking me the question, I don't know, Alan. I don't know, but maybe the game tells you. I don't know. Maybe the game gives you the answer to that. But we certainly weren't good enough on the day.
Was that one of the biggest disappointments given the stage of the season that we're out there?
Absolutely, yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt, I didn't come here and expect that. I expected people to really put themselves in the line, and I don't expect to give away goals like you give away. Not at this stage in the season. If you're going to give goals away like that at this stage in the season, and you're going to not compete like we did today at the stage of the season, then you're going to find it very, very difficult. We've got what we've got. We try and do the best we can with that, and it's up to the players with the qualities that they have to go and play in a way that we can recognise to try and get results. Football is as simple as that. And I imagine it tonight. Oh, we could do this. We could do. Listen, this is what this team needs to be good at in order to try and get results. And today we didn't do that. It's as simple as that.
Just to finish off, you touched on it, but obviously another big game now on Tuesday.
It's a big game on Tuesday, and again we will try and play the way that these players we look at the player and we'll say, well, you're good at that, so you go and be good at that. Well, we can't ask him to do anything else. And we'll go on Tuesday, and we will hopefully show a better version of ourselves on Tuesday. But I'm really disappointed, as you can tell. Thoroughly pissed off, if I've got to be honest, because it's an important time of the season and I wanted more. I wanted more than that. You're standing in this little technical area here, and you are you're in turmoil. You've got to understand that you are in turmoil standing watching some of that. But managers have got to do that. You've got to, that's what the job is, and you've got to just bounce on now to Tuesday, tell people what they need to be told in order to get a performance on Tuesday that does look like we're a team that should play for Oldham Athletic. That's the main thing. It should represent this brilliant football club better than that. But listen, it's not the first time. But we just have to hope that we have less of them.
There is a lot to unpack out of that, isn't there, really, when you listen to it? Dave, let's get your assessment of that interview in relation to the performance you saw yourself yesterday.
It was poor, wasn't it, yesterday? It was really bad. And he says we, but I didn't see how we influenced the game yesterday at all. You know, I mean, there was just nothing in it to get positive about during the day yesterday. And we are better than that. But I didn't see players taking individual responsibility. And I think that tells us a lot about the culture of an organisation where nobody's prepared to put their head above the parapet and take a bit of leadership, you know, and put their foot on the ball, just do something, change it. They're waiting to be told by Mickey Mellon what to do. You know, every minute of the 90, you know, while we have to look at the bench and be told to oof it forward or whack it at a rosette or whatever. It's just you know, you're adults. You know, take a bit of responsibility, and it feels like I don't know. It's for me, it's the culture, and I think it's been around at Latics for a long time. There's this fear of losing and fear of making a mistake, and I don't know if it comes from the terraces or it comes from within. But it almost feels like as long as I'm doing my little job and I don't, you know, screw it up, then I'm all right. And actually, I think I would rather go out and watch. I'd rather watch a team and be part of a team that is trying to win a game. Just go out and have a go at trying to win the bloody game rather than just fear to death of losing it. And I think too often this season we've been too scared to lose, and we've played safe, rubbish football and not really gone out to try and win it and put the other team under pressure, let them worry about us. We've kind of, I don't know. It's frustrating to watch, isn't it?
It's incredibly frustrating to watch, and I've never seen Mickey Mellon so frustrated. I've rarely ever seen an Oldham manager. When you think about the bloody performances and teams and managers we've had over the last however long, like we were looking at a manager there yesterday who was expecting his team to be a lot further along in its development than it is. And you know, you're talking about individuals doing individual things. One of the points he made there was that if people were doing the individual things that they were supposed to do, it would be a lot better. He you know, you talk about looking to the bench and stuff. It sounded like, you know, they're not doing what he wants them to do. It sounds like there isn't any, you know, any impact from the training, the coaching that they're having just isn't coming out onto the pitch. You know, people are saying about melon ball and 5 at the back and humping it forward and all that kind of stuff. Sounds yesterday, you know, from that interview, he wants his team to play some football. They didn't play any football yesterday again. It was just panic stations. You know, it's really interesting. There's so much to unpack. Like you talk about culture, Andy, you shaking your head there or nodding your head there when it comes to culture. We've talked, we've covered this loads of times, but let's look at Oldham Athletic now. Nearly 2 full seasons in under the new ownership, the chairman has just rode the Atlantic, right? So when you're talking about culture, you're talking about leaders, you're talking about people leading from the front, you're talking about setting an example. We've not got people hiding away in the background anymore, too shit scared to face their own public and their problems. We've got a chairman who's prepared to put his life on the line to raise money for other people, and that's supposed to be cheap. I'm sure, Andy, you know, we talk about it, about being positive and looking at the good things. hopefully the culture will change based on what we've got and this, this figurehead and his family and all that kind of thing. But it's not filtered its way down yet into the playing staff. And we said it under Unsworth. We got pelters for it a lot of the time. It was always, it's on Unsworth, it's on Unsworth, it's on Unsworth. I'm sorry, but yesterday and numerous times this season, Mellon takes some of the responsibility, Unsworth takes some of the responsibility, but those players on the pitch also are part of the reason why this team isn't performing. Now, I think that it takes time to build a team. Good teams, there's that whole like norming, storming, performing thing, isn't there, about developing teams? What we see with a lot of other teams in this division is they've been together longer, they've got more time and experience together, and that pays. I think the quality in our squad has got us to where we are now, but we are not a cohesive team, and that's the issue. But having said all that, Andy, does anyone come out of it with any kind of excuse? Is there any excuses, or are there any excuses for yesterday? Or what's your take on it? Because it's hard to find any, I think.
Yesterday's performance was as bad as Southend away, Bromley away, and Fylde away, which the 3 games prior to yesterday that we got beaten. That's only our 4th away defeat. I was chatting to a chap called Ian on the way down yesterday, who I know, one of the Oasis lot, and I was saying to him, we can't keep relying on our away form to keep us up there. The away form eventually we're gonna get beat, and you never know when that's coming. And there it presented itself yesterday. Overall, our away record is good, but you've got to be winning your home games, and that's where we're really letting ourselves down. So yesterday was just one of those games which was awful. I mean, I'm really, really, really underwhelmed with Tom Conlon. He as someone who should be trying to get a grip of that midfield. We've talked about the midfield being the problem all season, and Mickey Mellon and Brabin have signed, some of their own players. And yesterday, that midfield was as insipid and awful as any of the Unsworth midfields. You might.
Do you want me to drop that audio in from Southend, Andy, about the midfield later?
No, not really. But you might as well have played Mark Shelton yesterday, because they were absolutely awful in the middle of the park, and we got overrun. And every time someone picked the ball up, we hoofed it 40 yards. We were hoofing it to Andrew Dallas, who's 4'6". What is the point of hoofing it to Dallas? He's got a bit of pace. He needs it in front of him to run onto. He showed glimpses yesterday of something, but we're not playing to his strengths. Then when Mike Fondop came on, if you're going to hoof it to him, at least 80% of the hoof balls we hoof went to either Norwood or Dallas, and not to Fondop. It was absolutely terrible football, awful decisions being made. Now, it sounded like from that interview, it wasn't Mellon's instruction to do that, because he was bemoaning the same thing that we're bemoaning. So they're taking it upon themselves to hoof it. We don't run with the ball at our feet. Nobody runs at players. No. Nobody tries to take a player on. Nobody looks to pass the ball through the lines on the grass. It's just we've said it for weeks on end. It's absolutely awful decisions being made. I don't know what's happened to Kitchen. Doesn't look like the player that started the season. Hobson looks like a raffle winner all of a sudden, having been pretty strong. We just it's so poor performance yesterday. Now, whenever we have one of these poor performances, we tend to bounce back afterwards. So we're going to need to bounce back, because we're now going to have to win at Halifax and probably at Altrincham, because they've all got games in hand around us. We've got a harder run in than anyone else. It's going to be really difficult to potentially get into 7th, I think. That's everyone else's form around us looks better. When we chatted last week about, I wasn't so bothered about the Southend result. We were 1-up. They got a scruffy deflection for an equaliser. We could have won the game. We seemed to perform better. It came off the back of the Eastleigh away win, where we were passing the ball on the ground and trying to play football. You're thinking, okay, I'll take the draw onto Bromley. Now, the Bromley game I watched, obviously on the stream, I missed the first 15 minutes where we had a couple of gilt-edged chances. But for most of that game, it was hoofball again. And I felt Bromley were playing well within themselves for the draw. Bromley had one eye on yesterday's FA Trophy quarter-final against Barnet, which they won 2-0 comfortably. So they're looking at Wembley in that competition. I felt Bromley weren't in fourth gear. They were playing second gear, well within themselves, but they were passing the ball on the floor, running with the ball at feet, and we were hoofing it then. And I was watching it thinking, this hoof stuff is just got to stop. Like it doesn't work, or it doesn't seem to work. Then you've got, our we shared it between us yesterday, Matt. Our legal eagle, Ed Stanley, had tweeted Mellon's record, which I'll read out now. So Mellon's played 23 games in the National League. He's won 11, which is just under a 50% win ratio. He's drawn 6, lost 6, 434 against 29, points 39, which is 78 over a full season, which will comfortably get you in the playoffs. So let's take a positive tone. Yeah, on his record, Mellon's doing well, but he's either he's looking at the assets he's got and choosing a relatively turgid style of football to get the best out of them, which sometimes doesn't come off. I just don't. I can't see from that interview that he was wanting to play hoofball, but that's what we played all game. Launch it, rubbish.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, obviously people are getting involved. I was on Twitter and stuff, and I was having a look, and people are saying, worst performance for ages, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, what about Kidderminster? That was shocking as well. Only a couple of weeks ago at home, like we've not been playing well, consistently well. We've been picking up points, Dave. We've been under Mellon. You look at the statistics, and it was the statistics and the stats bomb and all that kept Unsworth in his job for a lot longer than people wanted. It is about results, but on performances wise, Dave, we've been poor, haven't we? Regardless of those 11 wins, we've not won convincingly, have we?
No, we haven't. You haven't been able to put your hat on a performance. I think since, I don't know. I mean, the last one I saw, we thought we were always going to win that game, was we got a goal up at Barnet when we played on that Tuesday night at their place. It's like, wow, we were brilliant that night, and that's the only game I've seen this season where I felt comfortable we were going to win. At any point in the match. As this, I was at Southend last week, and we were better against Southend last week. We played at home, and it was good to get a solid performance. And you could argue that it was progress. And you're going to get matches like yesterday every so often. It's annoying. But what is the message that the players are getting from Mickey Mellon, though? If he's standing there, and saying, "Well, we don't want to play like that," but they consistently play it like that, something's wrong in it.
So we need, it's on the manager, it's on the players, it's on everybody. You talk about recruitment, it's everything. It's a combined thing, right? And what they need to do is they need to find solutions. Now, obviously, that we feel that the squad is unbalanced. We don't have any wide players, particularly. We certainly don't have anywhere near enough. But bearing in mind that we have injuries and all that, but. We come back round to how should this team play, and how do we play to the strengths of Norwood, Dallas, Garner, etc. Because we are not only is today, Mickey Mellon rightly, mentioned the fact that there was the first goal was terrible to concede, and it was, and obviously they had a penalty which they missed, and they scored at the end. So defensively we weren't great today, but like you said, Andy, the midfield was non-existent, and we didn't create any chances. We didn't have a shot on target. So we are not. What is the point? Everyone's like, oh, Dallas comes in. Fans from other clubs are like, people that watch the National League are like, oh, Latics are cruising to the playoffs here now. They've got Norwood and Dallas and blah blah blah. Joe Garner comes in, and yet we are not playing to the strengths of those players. Now, I'm assuming that. Andy, you've mentioned the combined age of Garner and Norwood. The older I get, not that I had any problem telling people what I thought on the football pitch when I was younger, but the older I get, the more likely I am to walk into that changing room if I'm James Norwood or Joe Garner, turn around to those players on that pitch and give them a proper roasting. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? What are you doing? Like, there needs to be some serious head knocking going on between that squad in the dressing room and on the training pitch on Monday, because they need to have a proper look at themselves, because that was just, they're not doing anything. They were not doing anything right. The reason that we look at teams that come to Boundary Park and teams that we play and say, they look like Brazil. They don't look like Brazil. They're just playing football the way that other teams, like normal teams, play football, where they get the ball at the feet and then they give each other options for a pass and they pass it forward and they move and they try little triangles and 1-2s. Like, football is quite basic as long as you are aware of your own position on the pitch and your teammates' positions on the pitch, and you've got an ounce of ability. Now, we know these players have got an ounce of ability, but what they're not doing is the simple things and just passing and moving and the confidence. Some of them, like you said, Andy, about Conlon, he just looks scared to death. As an Oldham player, where's it all gone? Like, I just don't get James Norwood. Last couple, I know he's just come back from injury, but his touch, his passing, way off the pace. Like, what's going on within this collective mindset at the club? Mickey Mellon mentioned it in his interview about a mentality. Like, I don't know what they need to do, but they need to get everybody together in that dressing room, in that players' lounge, and they need to have a serious conversation about mentality and mindset. If they haven't done already, they need to do some soul searching. They need to get into that collective mentality. They need to ask some serious questions of each other. They need to open up and be honest with each other. People like Liam Hogan, who's been there and done it as a captain, James Norwood, they need to be asked the toughest questions because they are, the ones with the highest amount of expectation on them. But those players have also got to start asking more of some of those around them. And it's almost like, do you really want to be here? Like, we're going to touch on the squad pod will be coming up, and we'll be looking at the lengths of contracts and all that kind of stuff. But are these players, or a lot of these players, capable next season of moving on and showing us what they're capable of with the right additions to take us out of this division? Because I tell you what, on Tuesday we're at Halifax playing on a beach by the looks of it. Their pitch looks bloody awful, so that's going to be an awful game, I'm sure. And then we've got Chesterfield at home. And if we play anything like we played against Kidderminster or Aldersh yesterday, it'll be double figures against Chesterfield. They'll absolutely murder us. So it really is crunch time, isn't it? And it's on the players and the management now to stop this situation where we're about to throw away our playoff contention. Because if we're in the playoffs, we've got a chance. But like, it's look in the mirror time, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I did a little bit of just a little bit of sort of research on teams that have dropped out of the Football League. How long does it take them to get back? So, not including teams that went out of business and had to, start again. Teams that got relegated and came back. I found 23 teams. Didn't realise it was that many. 23 teams that had dropped out of the Football League and got back into the Football League. And the median average is about 5 years. So I'll read them out to you. So Carlisle, Bristol Rovers and Shrewsbury did it in 1. Grimsby did it in 1 second time, but they've been in 6 before. Orient and Colchester 2. Scunthorpe are in it 2, and they're in National League for 1, so they could be here for a while. Torquay have had a 2 and a 10 stretch. Tranmere and Southend, who are still going, 3. Notts County and Oxford 4. Hartlepool did it in 4 and are back in for a 2 stretch now. Exeter, Mansfield, Doncaster, Luton and Yeovil, all 5. Yeovil are in National League South. Chesterfield and Lincoln have been in 6. So Chesterfield, this is their 6th season. Cambridge 9. Stockport 11, 6 in National League North, and Wrexham 15. So, you look at that and you're like, crying out loud.
Because there's a reason, Andy, that teams drop to this level. It's because everything's gone wrong within the infrastructure of the club. So it's like we've been saying the whole time. It takes time to turn that around, and we hope that we're doing that relatively quickly. To be in the playoffs this season would be a great achievement, I think, based on last season. And then we have to look forward to next season. Do you think, though, Andy, because we know that things are going much better within the club. We're not ran like a pub team like we were for the last couple of seasons. But do you think that let's focus on the playing staff. Do you think that there is the character, there is the talent, there is the personnel within the existing? How much of it, when we get to the squad pod, without getting into too much, how much shaving off of the of the excess do we need in order to get next season?
I don't think shaving is the right description. I think it's gonna need open heart surgery, or we're gonna have to take the bludgeon some, chop it up with axes.
Lopping.
Because it's lopping off, because it comes back to the R word. Recruitment in the summer was not good enough. It left us behind. I'm not. Other than maybe Josh Stones, who was definitely a really good signing on loan from Wigan, I'm not sure many of the players that we brought in, Garner's added something, but where's Ethan Walker? Ollie Hammond's a kid. He's shown some good glimpses in some games, but you can't rely on him every week because he's young. Tom Conlon is just way off the pace at the minute. So you're sort of looking at some of the signings we've made. Sack Dev in and out. Again,
I wonder why you didn't play today. Do we know?
Possibly
he wasn't in the squad, was he? I mean, he had a decent enough game on.
Possibly had a knock against Bromley, or they're trying to rotate. I mean, he's tinkering with the team quite a bit, but whether that's enforced or whether he's just trying to rotate people to keep people fresh, I don't know. But we haven't signed, a 3 or 4 players that materially are making massive differences regularly. Norwood probably, you would say, has over the course of the season with 16 goals. But it's just we're gonna need, if we did go up this year in the playoffs, I mean, we'd need a serious overhaul in the summer to stand any chance of staying up in League Two. Probably with this squad, it would really struggle, you'd imagine, in League Two. So. I don't want to stay down here any longer than we need to, especially with the funding issues that come with it. But if you wind forward a decade, maybe Luton and Lincoln and Chesterfield and all these teams that have spent 5 or 6 years in this league, maybe they think it was part of the rebuilding process. It's just that we're in the middle of it, and so it's a bit harder to sort of stomach while you're going through it. But yeah, it's going to take. We're going to need to. Recruitment's going to have to be a lot better, isn't it? In the summer, whatever division we're in, because we're miles off it at the minute. We're miles off Chesterfield. I felt Bromley have walloped us at their place twice. I felt they were in control of that game in midweek. So we haven't beaten them in 4 attempts. Aldersh, who we hammered 5-1 at the start of the season, whatever they've done, they looked a lot better than us yesterday. In much better form. We've not always done great against Solihull. I know we won away, but they've beaten us at Boundary Park. So you've got all those teams around us that are just, like you said before, they're on their development is ahead of ours, and we've got some catching up to do just to really stand still. And that's where you can look at it positively. You take the negativity out. You're like, well, Mickey Mellon's done a pretty good job with what's available to him. It's not pretty to watch, but he's got us in contention, which when he came in, we were miles off contention. Frank was stood to the left of me yesterday in with the away fans for the whole game, and he looked utterly dejected. I felt for him. I glanced over at him a couple of times just to see what his body language was. I felt for him, but every time I almost looked at Frank, I was thinking this as I was doing it. I looked at Frank just for a bit of comfort because I kept thinking. I glanced over to look at what Mickey Mellon and Brabbin's body language was like on the touchline, and he said in his interview that he was in turmoil. Yeah. He looked utterly frustrated. He looked utterly furious. He was just stood with his arms folded, really annoyed. Yeah. That's how I felt. I glanced over at Frank. Frank was just sort of a bit sunken, sort of body language. But then I look at him and think, oh, thank God he's here. We look at those some of those teams I've just mentioned and how long they spent down here. They didn't have the Rothwells behind them. So therefore, I just take some comfort in that and think, look, we've said patience before. We're going to have to be patient, and he's trying at times. It tries mine as well. But I just think to myself, it's not the end of the world. We are in could be a lot worse. We're in a safe and comfortable place. Got good owners. We're not in any immediate danger. All the great decisions that are being made structurally behind the scenes are going to set us up for the future. I don't know whether you saw this week. There was interviews with Paul Murray and Nicky Adams about the development squad and the youth team and how they've come on, and Chucks has got them playing and beating. They beat top of the league. The development squad beat top of the league. FC United Manchester. The youth team got an admirable draw against top league Preston, and it's like we've got youngsters coming through potentially, and all that. I just think to myself, I've just got to wait. Just got to wait. It'd be great when it comes, but just got to wait.
Well, we speak about this kind of thing all the time, and we get as dejected during performances like yesterday as everybody else. We try, when we talk on a Sunday morning, we've had a sleep on it and everything. But Dave, can you give us a bit of a flavour of what the away end was like yesterday and what the feeling was like amongst the travelling fans?
It wasn't a happy place yesterday. It was pretty. I think from the off we were getting bullied, I think, on the pitch yesterday, and when that happens, you want people to stand up for themselves. And I think there was a bit of toxicity in the way end yesterday, and people having a pop at individual players and that sort of stuff. I don't think that ever helps, but I can understand it. I'm fortunate, I drove 40 mile around the M25 to watch yesterday's match, and it was rubbish, and but I was at home by 6:30. And, I haven't driven down from, Waterhead or wherever. Do you know what I mean? I've not sat on a coach for 4 hours and had to watch that. It wasn't nice. There were people, it was frustrating. And I think people were just looking for somebody to just give it a go, just have a go at trying to win a football match and not just hoofing it. And you were looking around for people to, it's funny because I looked at Frank yesterday, and it's the same thing, Andy. I was sort of like, well, I'm glad he's here, but what must he really think? And what must be going on between, underneath that flat cap? And it wasn't a happy place yesterday. It was much happier at Boundary Park against Southend last week, and I think it felt like we were going to get a bit of a hiding yesterday. Although Will in the Oasis group has messaged this morning. Unusually for Will, he's been quite positive, and he seems to have had a peaceful night's sleep. And he's messaged that it's we made progress, and he's right. He said it was 1-0 till stoppage time, and we could have robbed a point yesterday. And I guess this conversation would be very different if we had robbed that point. It was just we didn't really look like robbing that point though at any stage in that 90 minutes.
I believe that at the end of the game, the players came up to the away supporters. There was a few chants of "you're not fit to wear the shirt." What did the players look like? What did you two hang around to see the looks on their faces, the body language, and that kind of thing?
I did. I mean, most people sort of, when that second goal went in, most people made a bid for the exit, and I kind of turned around, but I stood, and they were made to go over. It was they went there under duress, and. There were those shouts. I think people were just really despondent. He was looking at and going, like, what was that? I just wasn't acceptable yesterday. And I think we're Latics fans. We're used to losing matches. You expect to go to a football match and win, but you expect to see some effort. And it didn't feel like that yesterday. And I don't know why that is.
I mean, when I don't like getting too high, when we beat Maidenhead or whoever away from home, and I don't like getting too low. But what I do want is when we do win, we celebrate together, and when we lose, we hurt together. And I hope that the players on the pitch that were on the pitch and that came over to the fans were hurting professionally, and because they feel that they've let the club and the fans down. I hope that they do feel that. I hope that they don't, go. We're always hearing that they're a great bunch of lads and all this kind of stuff. So I'm sure they are, and the ones that we've spoken to seem nice enough. But I think that this is one of the other things as well, that we have such a high turnover of players. I think it's hard for players to truly start to identify with a club and feel really part of it. I think you do need to spend a bit of time there. You do need to go through things with the club. You do need to go through things with the same group of players. You need to go through things with the fans. And one thing you can say for sure is we are going through things. And certainly as supporters, we've been going through things. And I think that we touched on contract length and about how to, when players are coming and going and things like that. Part of what makes the team develop, part of what brings that bond and that unity is longevity. So we can't have signed some of these players with some of the backgrounds, some of the pedigrees that they've got, and they are just they just lose all ability when they come to Oldham. That's just can't be the case. There are certain players that we know we're never going to see pull on a blue and tangerine shirt again. But there are players in that squad that we have to assume will grow into it once we've got a balanced team and an identity and a way of playing and all that. So I'm not too despondent about, the length of some of these players' contracts. I think there's a lot more to come from them. I think that we do need to go through some things together. We need to go through the shit together, and we need to see when those players come over to us at the end of games, the real joy at winning and having done that for us, and the real, heartfelt pain and that they feel after performances like yesterday. And that's why I think it's so important that we make the playoffs this season. Doesn't matter if we go up this season. It does. It'd be brilliant if we do. But if we don't, the fact that we've gone through it and we've shared that experience together, and we can see that those players from now until the end of the season have given their all to get us into that position and then give us their all in the playoffs. And if that means we go out in the quarters, the semis or the final, whatever, but give us your all and show us that it's important to you, show us that it matters and that you want to do the best for this football club and you want to do the best for its fans and you want to do the best for its owner and everybody. We're all in this together, and we can have no problem with that. But we have to go through this experience. We have to share the joy of getting into the playoffs and at the end of the season, whether it be against Oxford City or against Wealdstone in the last couple of games or whatever. And then if we go out, that we share in that pain and we say, right, next season we're going to make it better. We're going to fix it. Because that's what it's all about. That's how teams and bonds. One of my favorite TV series of all time is Band of Brothers. Because it's extreme. I'm certainly not likening being in a National League football team to being in World War II. As a like that. But you watch that series. It's called Band of Brothers because of all the shit that they go through and the ups and the downs, and they're putting their life on the line for each other, and scaling it back to sport and contextualizing it. It's a period. It's a prolonged campaign of togetherness that brings you results. And so, in terms of keeping this pretty positive, if only now we said we need to draw a line under Kidderminster, we need to draw a line under Aldershot. Two massive games coming up: Halifax in the Roses Derby on Tuesday night, and then Chesterfield at home. So I think we beat Chesterfield away last season. We drew away this season, and they beat us at home last season, and we drew at home. We drew away?
We got beat at home last year. We beat them away. We drew away this year. Yeah.
So we need to beat them. We haven't beaten them at home yet. So, it's massive. I mean, when it comes down to the players showing us what they're all about and their intent, they couldn't get up for the last big home game against Kidderminster. They couldn't get up for the last big away game against Aldershot. Well, you've got two games there, lads, now to be able to put it right. Have you got any confidence, Andy, that they're going to manage to do that? You mentioned before that they do sort of, tend to get up. Somebody posted out on Twitter that we've not lost 2 games on the bounce all season. Is that right?
Well, we've only lost 10, so yeah, that could well be correct. They do tend to get a reaction. It's just that, this run of fixtures in this month. We said it either last week or a couple of weeks ago. This month will tell us where we're going to end up because we've got some really difficult games, and you're not going to win them all, but we're going to have to win some games that are going to be very difficult to win. So whether that's Chesterfield at home, whether that's Altrincham away, whether that's Halifax away, or any combination of those, I'm not overly confident, Matt, if I'm honest. No. If you saw, I don't know, not that it matters too much, but with the England C team was announced this week, and there was no Latics player in it. I think that probably tells you a little bit about the squad. And you talk
the last one to go in, it was Joe Nuttall, wasn't it? He was a last minute replacement, as I remember.
Exactly, and then you also got Magnus Norman, I think, was in it. I can't remember.
It was. He was pulled out, wasn't
he? Yeah, but. You talk about culture earlier. One of the other things about culture is people have, I know Dave's been doing it week in, week out about the free Alex Reid thing, and obviously Alex Reid social media posted this week saying, goodbye, even though there's been no announcement. I think this is partially symptomatic of the issue. I guess I am digging Alex Reid out, but I'm not making it personal. I'm just talking about the context of it. I believe he was warned about his social media behaviour pre-Christmas. Then there was Christmas. And then there was his social media continuation post-Christmas. And I think you've also got to think maybe of some of the other players in that squad maybe didn't also like that behaviour. The sense to the dressing room being invaded by social media posts. If you're trying to create a culture and a winning team and everyone together, then that possibly doesn't help. So you've got those types of things to remove, and he's obviously been ostracised, and maybe he's leaving the club, and so you've got all of that going on in the background, and we need different characters in there, I think, and so summer's going to be interesting. But listen, next few weeks will tell us where we'll probably know by the end of this month whether we've got any chance in the playoffs or not, won't we?
How are you feeling about the next 2 games, Dave?
Yeah, I think they'll get a response this week. I don't think it'll be that bad 2 games in a row. And I think we've got some good players in that squad. I think we've got some experienced players. They might not have been at it yesterday, but I think we'll do all right this week. I think we'll get a win on Tuesday, and then I think as long as they play against Chesterfield, I think they'll have a go at Chesterfield. I think that's a big game. I don't think that the organisation can allow a game to slip away at this stage of the season. I think they're going to have a really good go at Chesterfield. And to be honest, I don't mind about that result. They're going up. They're streets ahead of us right now. I just want us to have a go at them. And I think if we have a performance, that'll set us up for the rest of the season. I think if we play well, if we get a result at Halifax and we play well against Chesterfield, I think we'll make the playoffs. No doubt about it.
I think the question is the obvious question really is how do we set ourselves up now between now and the end of the season? Because I think the 3 centre halves and then the 5 across midfield does have a tendency for us to end up being 5 at the back, and that's a problem. And even if Mickey Mellon doesn't so you've got 2 ways of looking at it, and you've probably got 2 different perspectives amongst the fan base, and the fan base A will be saying, well, that's because Mickey Mellon wants to set us up defensively, and he wants us to play 5 at the back. And then you'll have the group of people say, well, he's setting us up with 5 across midfield, but the players tend to fall into that 5 at the back dynamic, and that's the issue. So, we're still in the situation now of not having recognised right back at the club, fully established right back at the club. Yesterday with Will Sutton coming off, you're asking Liam Horgan again to go out and play right wing back. It's a tough one in terms of how we set the team up, but we've struggled in centre midfield, even though we've got Conlon coming in. I'm sure Mickey Mellon must be scratching his head about how to get the best out of this team as much as we are, because like he said yesterday, Alan asked him in the interview, how do you fix it? He said, if he knew, he'd flick the switch and he'd do it. So I thought I saw a video of the pitch at Halifax yesterday. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like the kind of pitch that there's going to be pretty football being played on. Not that
it's all right because we just boot it in the air anyway.
Yeah. So if that's the case, how do we try and be more effective? Do we need to try and be more effective at that? Does Mickey Mellon look at what he's got and say, right, well, lads, if you're going to keep on insisting on umphing it forward, this is how we're going to do it, or does he try and encourage them to play better football?
We've got to get the ball on the floor and pass it, right, and stop this hoofing it nonsense. If you're going to hoof it, you're going to need 2 6'5" giants, aren't you, up front who are absolute lumps? Because the other thing that's noticeable is when we hoof it and it goes up front, the midfielders have hoofed it from 10 yards inside their own half. So there's this 20, 30-yard gap between the strikers and the midfield. There's nobody to pick the second ball up. So all the Aldersh shot players yesterday are just picking the second ball up, turning, then running 10 yards at us. They're so disjointed. So I kind of yesterday, when he played 3 strikers up front when we were 1-0 down, I was thinking, oh, good on him for having a go, right? But, because I was quite happy to see 3 strikers, keep Dallas on and see what he could do. But it's a pointless exercise if the midfield don't get up the pitch and join. And if they're not going to try and pass the ball through the lines and work the way up the pitch, then it's sort of pointless.
Is it too late in the season now to start 4-3-3 and start giving that a go, or what? Because or does he stick with this 3-5-2? Like, what do you think? Because
it's the formation that's got him the most points. Like I said, we just did the stats a minute ago that Ed had shared. He's knocking on 2 points a game. He's just under 50% win ratio. On paper, he's done really well. So he can't really knock it. So I guess he's just got to go with what he's got, which is what he keeps repeating, and trying to get, and he understanding that there's limits to what some of these players can do, and therefore just try and get the best out of them. I mean, one of the things that he seems absolutely adamant on is playing Harrison McGahey in centre midfield every week, doesn't he? He's adamant he's doing that. And that is a limited decision. There's limits to what that can achieve. He's not the worst passer of a ball. He can defend. He can head. I get why he's doing it, but he, turns like a tank engine. I reckon I could outstrip him on a 100-metre race because he's really slow. So there's limits to what you've got. So he's probably just going to have to stick to 3-5-2 and somehow get Kitchen back to trying to get balls into the box and being effective.
It's just like this wing-back thing, though. Is like we don't have like Kitchen. It's supposed to be that position, but like you say, he's not been performing. We don't have cover on the right-hand side. We just don't, apart from maybe Saisak and he wasn't in the squad for whatever reason. Like, maybe we should just go to a 4 across the back, play Conlon or McGuire or whoever in the sort of like a holding midfield role, and then just have a front 5. And start pressing teams and start getting higher up the pitch and, trying to force teams into mistakes and just having more bodies ready to play football further up the pitch and playing to the strengths of the front players that we've got.
If you're going to play the hoofball tactic and try and pick the second ball up, it's not pretty, but if we're going to do it, and that's our most effective format, you're going to have to start Fondop. Going to have to start him because he's the only player really that Garner wins a reasonable amount of headers for his size, but he's not that sort of player. So you can't play your 70-year-old strike force.
Yeah, well, the problem that we've got is there's no point playing with wide players, right? Because we don't get it wide, we don't get the ball in the box. It's not something that we're good at doing. There's no point playing hoofball with any of our forwards because we don't know how we're doing that, there's no point, and so that leaves us with the option of like playing a different formation, such as a 4-3-3, and getting the ball on the ground and start knocking it about. But we don't do that either.
Let's fuck it and just get the kids in, right? Let's just get Alfie Atherton in, get that lad, get that Jake Forshaw back from Guiseley, wherever, just whack him in, right? Get Kofi Moore in, get them all in. Let's have a look at them.
But even if we do that, we have to pick a formation, don't we? You know what I mean? So we still have to play a certain way. I mean, they've got to start. They've got to figure out. They've got how many games we've got left? 8 games, is it? Yeah. They've got 8 games to figure out what is their most effective way of playing and deliver on it consistently. Time is running out. We're in the mix. It all depends on other results. We've got to start winning games. Our last run of games isn't good. Not enough wins. So we've got to turn around starting on Tuesday. There's not really much more to say on it, is there? Really, it's not up to us. It's not up to us to. We can say what we want. We can give a big speech and call in Band of Brothers and talk about be emotional rallying calls and all that, but it's down to the players. It's really on them, so they've got to figure it out. So I'm going to cough.
Dave, are you ready for Latic's mind?
No, but yeah, absolutely.
Nobody's ready for Latic's mind. Well, it's your turn. Excellent. So best of luck, mate.
Cheers, Paul.
Who was in goal for the playoff first leg semi-final against QPR in 2002-2003?
Was it Pogliacomi?
It was David Miskelly. 3 players scored double figures in the 2000-2001 season. Carlo Corazin and Mark Allett are 2. Who was the third?
David Ayres?
Lee Duxbury. Who scored a late winner versus Aldershot at home in August 2022?
Mike Fondop.
Hallam Hope. Which Arsenal striker had a spat, literally, with Latics fans at Boundary Park in November 1991?
And that was Ian Wright, wasn't it?
Correct. How many incarnations of Chaddy the Owl have there been?
4.
3. David Ayres is remembered for his late free kick at Stockport in February 2003. Who scored Latics' first goal that day?
2003. No idea.
Do you want to pass?
Yeah, pass.
How many times did Latics win on Boxing Day in the 2010s?
1.
Correct. How many home games did Latics win in their promotion season of 1990-91?
Oh, 15.
17. Who knocked Latics out of the FA Cup in the same season?
Is it United? Man United?
No, that was the League Cup. It was Notts County, League Cup the season after Notts County. What was the... I've started, so I'll finish. What was the score of Latics' record league defeat?
7-1.
It was 13-4 against Tranmere in the 1930s.
Ouch.
So...
and then we thought Aldershot was bad.
Yeah. I think we played them twice in a few days, and we beat them at home like 5-0 or something. And then lost.
Of course we did. Of course we did.
So I think you got 1 correct there, and you had 1 pass.
Was it 1?
Let me just check. Yeah, got 1. How many times did we win on Boxing Day? That was a yes.
Yeah, and Ian Wright as well.
Oh, and Ian Wright here too.
My apologies.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Thanks, 2 correct.
Yeah,
2 correct. 2 correct, 1 pass. So the 1 pass, David Ayres scored a free kick late at the railway end at Stockport County in 2003. Who scored Latics' first goal that day, Matt?
John Eyre was my guess.
It was Paul Murray.
Again, I was at that game, but I can't remember any of the details. I got 2 as well. Not bad.
Happy with that.
Well done. It's good not to draw a blank like Latics yesterday.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. So, any other business, Andrew, before we close the shop?
Yeah, we've got someone who we're going to give a shout out to, haven't we?
We do.
We've got a message in this week. There's a chap called Paul Ormrod, who we know listens every week. He's currently in hospital at the minute, so we're just sending him best wishes and hope he's on the mend.
Absolutely. We're all one big Latics family, and we hope everybody's well. And if you want any shout outs for anybody, just give us a call or get on the phone in on Wednesday night. Let's hope that on Wednesday, when we have the phone in, that we've got something a little bit more positive to collectively talk about before we play Chesterfield on Saturday. And I'm not going to lie, I'm dreading that game now at this stage. So I'm hoping that we can do something on Tuesday because, oh God, we're going to get a right tonking otherwise, aren't we? Right. Well, listen, Dave, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, boys.
Andy, thank you very much as well.
Cheers, mate.
And we'll see you all for the fun. And don't forget, you can get your tickets for Trophy Chest, the end of season party, by going onto our website, ofcpodcast.co.uk/shop. It could still be a playoff party. You never know. Thank you for listening to the Boundary Park Alert System, a QPod production hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. QPod is Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company, and if you'd like to learn more about how podcasting can help take your brand to the next level, visit kupod.co.uk. A huge thank you goes to all those people who subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. We really appreciate you all. Please visit oafcpodcast.co.uk and click Be a Supporter or find the link in the show notes if you'd like to help us fund the show. It's only $2.99 per month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Don't miss the Latics Football Phone-In every Wednesday live from 8:30pm. Please visit youtube.com/@OAFC podcast and do hit subscribe while you are there. You can also follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok @OAFC Podcast. Big thanks go to Eileen Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning, and also to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. If you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show, we would love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.